Alright, welcome home racing fans. Well, it looks like I have a hot mess out here. Well, I guess I do. I've already got this Porsche taken down. We're going to do some light tuning, nothing major. Just going to cover a few things, and I'll bet you we're going to get this car, well, to haul the mail. So let's just get started. One of the first things I want to talk about when you're testing your car is you might hear a pretty bad noise. You're going to think some gear is wrong or something horrible is going wrong. But what it really is the set screw here on your spur gear. Depending on how much float you have between the pod and the chassis, it could still rub. That set screw, because it's a little bit long, can still rub the chassis here. Even though NSR has put a relief here, sometimes it just isn't enough. It's a pretty easy fix. I just take an X-Acto blade. You have plenty of room, and you can scrape this out, make it a little bit deeper, and you'll be good to go. It's pretty easy to check and see if you've taken away enough material. I just compress the chassis and the pod, and because the spur gear has these nice holes drilled in it, you can visually see if your set screw is clearing the chassis. So I've taken out enough material, nice and free and clear. So we're good to go. Time to move on. So moving on to the guide, yes, I am going to change it. I do realize that there's nothing really wrong with this guide. For a lot of people, they like the shallow blade for some older track systems, and it does work just fine out here on our track. I just feel it could be improved. There's a little bit of free play here. You can tighten this up and keep this just by putting a set screw here in the front and spreading this apart. It'll tighten it up a little bit, but you know what? I just can't help myself. I have to experiment. So the first one I'm going to try is from Slot Invasion. They make a really good, robust guide, and I'm going to use it here. It just goes right in the chassis. It fits really well. It's not that much deeper than the NSR, not too much. We're talking 7.50 millimeter depth, and the NSR is 6.20. So not a whole lot, but a little goes a long way sometimes. As far as the thickness goes, that's what matters to me on these guide blades here. Is for our wooden track, this width really goes a long way. You wouldn't believe it, but it goes a long way in preventing this side to side slop as you're tracking. It just matters. The whole car feels just more solid. The rear end tracks better when you minimize this as much as you can. So these blades here, they're 2.25 thick, and NSR is at its widest point 1.50. It starts out a little thinner and then it spreads out. So as far as the length goes, the Slot Invasion is around 25 millimeter long, and the NSR, as everyone knows, is like 16.45. But anyway, I'm going to try different guides. This isn't the only one. I'm going to go to our standby Slotting Plus wood track guides too. That's what these cars are all about, having a little bit of fun experimenting. But I'm going to start with this one. It has a really great fit in the chassis. I'll probably be changing the wires too. You don't really have to, but it's just me. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to see how this car reacts. All right, getting ready to install the new guide. As you can see here, I've used my set screw method, where I tin the wires first with solder. I flatten them out, put the set screw in. It's just my preferred way. Everybody has a different way. I've never had a failure doing this. You just do it your way. Ferrules, whatever suits you, you do it. This one does it for me. Also, you can see one shim right there, right here over the post. I like to use at least one guide spacer here from Slot Car Corner, and I like that. Just puts a little space between here, the chassis and the face here of the guide. Just helps seem to smooth it out, just to me, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And then finally, the braid. I'm using tin copper braid. Some people like the softer. This just works for me, just my preference. So got the braid in there, everything's ready to go. Now we'll get it in the chassis. Okay, so we have the new guide installed here. As you can see, have nice freedom of movement, almost self-centering. That's what you're looking for. You have plenty of clearance there for the bulkhead. So slot invasion installed, looking good as far as wires go. As you can see, I have the wires routed into the little channels that they provide, but I can tell you right now, they always come out. So I do a little bit of my UV glue. I think this works the best. It's not permanent. You can peel it away if you have to, but you can just put a couple drops of UV glue there. Not going to hurt anything. And then you just give it a zap. Now it's important that you don't want these wires interfering, fouling with the pod. So I put them on the outside edge there, and everything's free and clear. It doesn't take but a little bit here. And there we go. That'll keep those secure. Now for here, now it's easy to measure. As you can see there, it's easy to measure, cut, and solder our wires, make them nice and clean. But yep, we're pretty good. And of course up here in front, we put them down low so that we don't foul the axle, rub the axle. And the last thing is, when you're doing this up front, is put your body on and make sure that the let me get this here. Make sure that the wires look inside there, and make sure they're not rubbing the top of the body. You know, if they are, kind of bend them out of the way. That way, you know, you really have nice, free and clear action, and that's what you want. So now I got to do the other two cars, but that's basically it. We'll end this series and we'll start the next part really soon.